Joe, do you know why Humpty Dumpty had a great fall?
Why did Humpty Dumpty have a great fall?
To make up for the miserable summer. Hey, Joe, why did the math book look so sad?
Why did the math book look so sad?
He was full of problems. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel. It's been a little while. I'm Jacques, and Joe, you look a little different. You look a little. Did you get a tan, Joe? Did you get some sun?
I'm a little bit more Asianer and a little bit, a lot fatter. I'm not as pretty as Joe, but somebody's got to fill in those big shoes. Small mics.
So the three people who are listening to this might have known back in early November that Joe and I decided to take a little hiatus with Carnival Personnel. I think Joe felt that because we personally got Joe Biden elected, that our work was done. Mission accomplished is what the last episode was called, and it was time to ride off into the sunset. And I very much enjoyed the hiatus, but my arrogance, my hubris, my ego demanded that I get down to my basement and yell at somebody. So the dedicated listeners of Carnival Personnel will know my co-host, my good friend, our good friend, Biff. Welcome, Biff.
Thank you. And just realized that so the real question is, did you lose a listener also, or do we even it out because now Joe might be a listener and like it's an actual even trade?
I labored. So I gave it a few weeks, and I enjoyed the hiatus. There was a couple times where I walked around aimlessly. I was like a person playing Fortnite for the first time who didn't know how to turn around and walked into a wall. So my arms and legs kept kind of moving forward, but I was just stuck. I actually put up a picture of Joe on my laptop and got out the microphone and yelled at it for 2 hours. But I enjoyed the hiatus. And then when I wanted to kind of see if Joe was interested in maybe reformatting and trying it, and we thought about that, took a little more time out. But then when the decision was made, it's like, well, it's just not the right thing right now. So said, no, go on, go with God. I think were his exact words, because, he's a big religious guy. And I thought about, well, yeah, I really want to do this, but I'm a team guy, so I didn't want to do it myself. And I did. I thought, well, who could I really do something with? And I thought it would have to be somebody who knows me, who I've been through big life moments with, who has seen me naked for maybe 400 or 500 times. Actually, I don't think Joe's seen me naked that much, but I thought, it was a very short list. And then I thought Biff, but I really thought if Biff does a show with me, will our listenership go down 33%? And then I thought, well, just what you said. Well, if Biff jumps on, maybe Joe listens, and maybe that evens out. But that's to be seen. The numbers will be rolling in any time. I'll have to check the analytics. Well, you're the numbers stats guy, so I'll let you crunch the numbers on an Excel spreadsheet when that comes in. But Joe and I did 225 episodes, 165 regular shows, 60 side shows, and Biff was a big part of, where was it? I had written down when you were on, and I was like, wait, was that really 2 years ago? Do you remember when you were in Boston and you jumped on, Biff?
I don't know if you can hear me right now because I'm kind of crashing, but gosh, that was a year ago, I think I want to say.
Are you crashing because of the what kind of wine were you opening?
No, that was okay. So you could hear me. I'm actually drinking. So one of the things I am not also is I'm actually a lot more drunker than Joe also. So that's another, new thing. Not that I'm trying to do drunk history on your show, but I think it was like about a year ago when I actually because I just got on this new project and I had this I had this 1 week where I did some alternate scheduling. So that's when I flew into Boston. So yeah.
Biff did Carnival Personnel on January 15th, 2018. So 2 years ago today.
2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Today. Happy anniversary.
Oh my God. 2 years
anniversary. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some changes. Like I had suggested some changes that I wanted to make, and that I also thought that Joe might want to make if we were going to trudge on. One of the big things is the learning curve, because I'm going to try to tackle editing together. I'm going to try to edit. Take 4. I'm going to try to tackle editing. I used to be an editor. That was maybe 91 lifetimes ago. On one hand,
it's a good thing you didn't do it professionally or anything like that too. So
right. It's not like that was my living for a few years. On one hand, the principles are all the same and the tools are so much better. On the other hand, I'm older and I'm slower at learning tools. Like no matter how user-friendly the tools are, I'm still a tool myself. So I was talking to management about this, and about one of the things that I know that Joe didn't like is the editing out, the clicking of the lips and different just things that people don't realize they do unless you're have headphones on and you're listening very closely. And then I thought it was funny, just after I had that conversation with her, that I might have to learn to do that. Or maybe I'll just be like, fuck it, I'll let it go. Was listening to a Conan podcast where his producer was saying, no, dude, I spend a couple hours every episode editing you doing that out. Like if we actually put this out, and I think it's one thing where the producer was talking about where it's just audio and you don't have all the sight gags and you being you, Conan, when people hear,
Yep.
You pick up on that. So there's going to be, quite the learning curve. I also have realized just in the past few days, taking notes for the 265 episodes would have made it really easier now, because I had talked to Joe that whether he liked it or not, I was still going to make him part of the podcast. That's not true. If he said, no, I really don't want my image being used, please don't use it, I would have respectfully, I would have respected those wishes, for an episode or two. But no, I was going back. It's like, wait, what episode did he do this voice that I loved? What episode did he do that song? What episode was it where he wrote this parody song? Or what episode was it where the random video game review was just hysterical? And now I have to kind of sift through the descriptions that he always wrote on the posting of it. It's like, oh, okay, the Gallagher song's on this episode, and then have to scroll through and find it versus. So going forward, I think I'm going to get a lot better, with things like that. But anyways, we'll move ahead. Everybody, welcome Biff. Biff, I am super excited that, you agree to kind of give this a whirl. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's not as exhausting as the 4 times that we've driven from LA to, did we lose Biff? Oh, how long have we lost Biff? Stand by. We're experiencing some technical difficulties, but we'll return to the regular programming soon.
Yeah, this is awesome. So my apologies. So that's going to be a long edit there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I was just saying that the editing is going to be a learning curve. It would have been helpful preparing for moving forward, having taken notes in the past. But there's going to be learning curves with me editing and all that kind of stuff. But, where we're on different coasts now, there's going to be time zone, issues and stuff like that. We just had a computer problem, tear down the fourth wall. We just had a little IT problem. How much you want to get into your personal life or anything, Biff, you want to talk about what you do for a living?
I'm an IT guy.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So I kind of thought, well, Joe's a nerd, so therefore he would know about, basically this plugs into this and this makes this work. And then I'm thinking, you know what? Biff is a nerd, highly educated in this space. I'm going to have to worry about all these new responsibilities. But you know what I'm not going to have to worry about?
It's amazing. I actually have a new computer, and for some reason it crashes on me. So this is really pathetic. So actually, I'm using the phone, which apparently seems to be more stable than the computer. So what the hell?
Now, when you say it's a new computer, like if you buy a used car, you say, "Here's my new car."
No, not the new to me stuff. Which new to me stuff is what I do with hockey equipment because I don't care what equipment I play with. But no, this is new as in I bought it from Dell.com new. But it was about a year ago, so it is a year old. But still, it's not like ancient or anything.
Well, so, yeah. Okay. Again, you're the IT guy. A year old in computer. That's like dog years.
No.
Like this is a 7-year-old computer is what that is.
Yeah, there is no excuse for this lameness, So I have to figure out why it kept on crashing on me. But whatever.
So we'll go through the brief history for the 4 people who might not know Biff. Biff and I have been playing hockey together for damn near 25 years. Biff is a goalie. Some of my most fun memories ever playing hockey is playing, with All-Star Tommy, Taylor, our friend John, who we talk about a lot. John and I were defensive partners who I'm going to say 90% of the last 10 years I lived in LA were Biff's, stood in front of Biff, on Friday nights and in different tournaments. Biff and I.
Well, kind of stood in front. It's John did a good job of standing in front of me. If you decided to come back, yeah, sure.
That's a long way to go from being behind the other team's net to get to in front of my net. But so Biff and I did that. Biff also presided over the marriage to my, current wife, management. So Biff was also, one of the first people I talked to when the first marriage kind of went sideways. Again, we've driven to Vegas together for tournaments and Phoenix together. And, I was just thinking the other day, you've had dinner at my sister's house here in Boston.
That's true.
You have become good friends with my friend Ross, who is now our friend Ross. You also have come to one of the NFL outings with me. It was down for the Washington football team, which is, of all the anthems I've done and the cool things I've got to do, that one was hands down. The Cheap Trick one with the Colts was probably the second best one, but hands down, the Washington Eagles game on Monday Night Football was the best experience I ever had doing that. And it was amazing because I got to share that with you, with our friend Ross, with my friend Andy, with our friend Billy Ray, and who were some of the other friends we got to meet that night, Biff?
You're talking about like Stuart Scott
and
the late great Stuart Scott. Yeah, the entire and the the former Detroit Lions GM. I can't remember his name now,
and Steve Young.
Yep.
I tell people it's like the first play of the game.
Yeah.
You and I, and Ross. So
right.
I am not tall, but I kind of tower over Biff. Biff towers over Ross. And the three of us are standing next to the Washington team bench. And we literally are one step away from like the yellow line that divides the players' bench and the sideline. We're at the 35-yard line. And what's his face?
You're talking about Vic. Michael Vick?
Yeah, dog drowning Michael Vick. He looks right at us, and there's somebody more alone than me on prom night. And I remember thinking, this is going to be the most awesome thing. The catch is going to be made right in front of us. And he pump fakes to that guy. And I'm thinking, wow, like I could possibly make a tackle right here, right now, and be infamous. Like on Monday Night Football in 40 years, they'll be showing the time that the fat guy, in the tan suit tackled. And then he turns his body, like pivots 45 degrees and throws a 80-yard bomb.
Deshaun Jackson.
Right. And I remember you and I were, wow, that's a little unprofessional to see Stuart Scott.
Yeah. They're just jumping around and, body fiving each other.
And that's like, they don't take favorites and things like that. And then we got back to the hotel that night. We're watching Sports Center, the rebroadcast, and Deshaun had told them, first play of the game. This is exactly what we're doing. And from that event, did you take the picture of me and Stuart Scott on the sideline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So if all the sports things I've got, if all the great memories I've had doing it, Biff took this amazing picture of Stuart Scott and I exchanging cell phone numbers with Billy about 2 feet behind us, so that's why, when I was thinking, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm arrogant and egotistical and think my opinions matter, but I couldn't do it by myself. And there was a very short list of people I was hoping would say yes. And so basically when I called Biff and he said yes, I'm like, well, I guess I don't need to call anyone else. So
at least for now.
At least for now. So, hey, I do have Scotty Black on speed dial because
that's right. Oh my God. You want to have, you talk so much as it is. And, I'm not keeping you in quite as good check as Joe is, but man, with Scotty Black, he's going to just, go and leave and do chores and come back and, still find you talking and you're not going to notice.
Well, one of the reasons I did want to do a podcast with you is exactly that. Joe is the guardrails. He also has known me through some of the shittiest times and best of times. I've known him since he was in high school, and he has no problems calling me out on my shit or just saying, dude, you're way off base here, or just bringing up the most painful memories of my life, but being able to have me laugh about it. And then and calling me out of my shit is just something that is really necessary. Also guardrails. So, again, just in the past week, I think Joe, he knows you. He knows all of John and all this stuff, but I threw him on a couple text chains, and I think he really knows. It's like he gets to see firsthand, because I send him screen grabs all the time when you call me out on the shit.
I keep forgetting how Joe is on that thread, and we're doing all this thing, and it's like, oh wait, Joe's on this thread, and it's like, this is like one of those stupid inside jokes or whatever, or anything hockey that Joe doesn't give a crap about,
Well, I noticed that the other day, when Tommy, I said the screen grab of the picture of All-Star Tommy in the notebook, I'm like, dude, you've been living inside my head rent free. And he's like, it's roomy in here. It's like, because Joe wasn't doing the podcast, I wanted him to still kind of be in the loop of all the shit I get from you guys. But so I threw him on the text chain. And then the other night when I noticed it was, second period of the game in St. Louis. And it's like, I responded to the text chain without him on it. And the conversation continued. I don't think anybody noticed that the thread, was side by side. Anyways, Biff, thanks for doing this. Hopefully it lasts. Sure. Let's see if it goes 265 episodes. Let's see if Joe decides it's like, hey, I can't believe how funny and reverent and important it is, and I think society still needs my voice as well. And then it becomes the three of us doing this, or better yet, it becomes the two of you guys doing it. At any one time, you guys could just get together and it's like Joe has all the passwords for everything. And maybe you guys decide, you know what, this is a good platform, but he's let him go over to Parler. Let's Jacques do a podcast on Parler.
I don't know what you're talking about. Parler, have you tried logging on to Parler? Let's see if that's even up right now.
So, that was one of the first things on the rundown. I give no credit to the social media people doing the right thing in the past few weeks in the light of the armed insurrection and seizing of the Capitol. All the social media platforms have decided to step up and say, hey, we can no longer be part of this. I think, honestly, if the Democrats don't win Georgia and the Senate is still controlled by Mitch, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't fear the raft of Elizabeth Warren like he's going to deal with now. He flat out was a year ago, when it was about 2 years ago, when Elizabeth Warren was one of the top 3 people running for the nomination.
Yep.
The footage comes out, or the phone call comes out, where Zuckerberg is on a conference call with the board of directors or whomever, flat out saying we can't let her become president because he knows she is going to come after them. But again, she wouldn't be able to. So I don't give them a lot of credit for stepping up and finally a bridge being too far.
Yeah, listen, bottom line is that, so Google is one of those entities, and YouTube, a Google subsidiary, didn't pull those videos until 2 days ago either. So
Right.
I mean, it's like part of it is you kind of we know where what drives them, right? It's really they're driven by their bottom line anyway, right? So there's some of that to some degree, but yeah, I mean, obviously all these channels had ample opportunity to do something earlier, and I think that kind of goes true for a lot of people, right? There's a lot of people turning around and saying this is wrong, blah blah blah, but a lot of people go against this, when other stuff were coming out. So yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, they don't get a pass, but in the end, I'm not so worried about them getting a pass or not getting a pass as much as because they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And it's really a question of, so what's going to happen next, right? I mean, this is its own phase, and we'll see what happens between now and Wednesday. Who knows what could happen between now and then? But then after that, let's see what happens. I mean, I'm at a point where it's like we could kind of discuss, do the hindsight stuff at this point, but it's really about what happens next. Because I mean, on the one hand, people, just like they did with every president that's been elected, oh, this president's going to do this and this and this and that. And, fundamentally, like most people don't understand, we have a president that's not a dictator for a reason, right? And so, people have these expectations of the president, but, and the kind of the funny irony is that we got to see the extent of, how powerful the presidency can be, because I think, in many ways, kind of Trump showed us, what the limits are in terms of how much you can do with executive actions and stuff like that.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think we're done seeing the limits to the power. As we record this, we are 110 hours away from what is supposed to be a peaceful transition of power. But just sticking on and wrapping up the social media thing, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the culpability and the liability of these platforms who, even as of today, Fox News, who kind of started to pull back a little. And in the past week, there's been arguments on, Fox and Friends between hosts saying, yeah, the president does have his hands dirty in this, and other people, but they're still allowing. There was a senator on just on Thursday, who was reiterating the talking points that it's a stolen election and all this, and wasn't corrected by the host. I mean, they're still feeding into this. And at one point, I hopefully there comes some more clarification. And I'm a huge First Amendment guy, but I'm also are they yelling fire in a movie theater?
Well, I think that I don't, they're not probably too worried about that, right? They're trying to kind of figure out where they can go next. Maybe they don't really want to, exit. I'm a guy, or I'm a woman with a hot significant other, and the significant other is in a complete car wreck. But that significant other is really hot, and so I'm not really ready to completely leave yet. So
as hot as the chick in the background photo of you and I at my wedding at the beach.
You really want to explore that? I mean,
no, but
do you want to extrapolate on that a little bit?
You can, go ahead. So you can tell that story because it's a good one.
No, it's a good one. So yeah, there was a goofy picture of Jacques and me at the from the wedding on the beach, and we're doing this stupid goofy Star Wars pose. Not important.
It's important. I'm dressed as Han Solo. You're dressed as a Jedi Knight.
The Jedi, yeah. And then, but behind, there's this, kind of this short blonde with super long hair, in kind of like this, kind of like a body tight. It almost looks like in a wetsuit. So I post this on Facebook. And one of my friends goes, "Hey, who's the hot chick behind you?" And my answer is, "Yeah, that's my friend's. How old was Grape? G back then, like 8. Yeah, it's my son's 8-year-old son. So yeah, that was the.
It was. Hey, look.
Grayson has long hair. He's got gray hair. But
fantastic hair, and he looks great in a wetsuit from behind. So speaking of misidentifying people, I still can't believe that I missed the memo at the last Antifa meeting that you and I went to, that we were supposed to be with all our other Antifa friends storming.
Okay, I thought when you said, misidentification, I thought you were just going to, do another Asian joke on me. So.
You know what, dude? We are 20 minutes in, and not once did I reference You're I almost said like
You're looking for the right word.
well, I was trying to think. It's like, do I go with handicap? Do I go with what is the most awful thing I can say? But no, I was really trying to right out of the gate not go with my overt dislike of Asians overall.
I know. It's like you always love the ones you hate, or whatever the expression is. And of course you're married to one, right?
Hatred starts at home.
Yeah, all that good stuff. So anyway,
Yeah. So
I wreck that joke. See, that's the kind of joke that I wreck that Joe would never wreck. So there, and Joe also being less drunker than I am, also it probably also helps.
But are you good at math? Yes or no?
Yeah, I am. But you know what?
Is that a stereotype? You just happen to be Japanese, and you just happen to be. Those are two facts that have no correlation.
I could get into some of the extenuating factors, but it's boring as hell. So I'm not going to. But I could at least say this. When I was a kid, my parents thought that I may eventually go back to Japan. So I got to go to 2 different schools at the same time, where on Saturdays I took the Japanese curriculum. So I already had the math that they taught at my regular school like several years before. So it was like, yeah, I can do all this because I already did it like however many years ago.
That is awesome. No, but what I was saying about misidentification is when you and I were at the last Antifa Zoom meeting where we were getting our marching orders to attack the Senate. And I didn't know that part of our Antifa crew, included U.S. Olympic swimmers and,
I mean, people like to say, so one thing, shout out to our friend, All-Star Tommy, the LA Times writer was nice enough to point out gold medalist and USC's cleat, whatever the guy's name is. So, he, and obviously he was doing it because it's of local interest, LA Times writer, USC, swimmer. And not to say that people at USC are criminal or anything, I mean, it's just a coincidence that, the admission scandal happened at USC and not UCLA, stuff like that.
And your friend Crazy Legs, was a big USC fan. So
yeah, but did he go there?
That's the funny thing you find out about sports. It's like how many college, people live for this university, that university. It never went. You know what I mean? But speaking of university, well, first of all, I wanted to touch on that. I love how instantly Senate is on fire. It is being invaded, and instantly the spin was, oh, that's Antifa disguised as Trump fans. And even 2 days later, they're like, oh, that's all Antifa disguised.
Listen. You know what? The only way we can find out for sure is to round them all up and arrest them, and then we'll find out. And then, we'll get all the bad guys.
Now they've arrested a good dozen of these people. Not that they're good people. I mean, they would not find people on both sides. But they did round up a lot of these people. And so far, I haven't recognized any of our fellow Antifa union members that, we see at our Water Buffalo Lodge. So far, it's...
Listen, I'm going to agree with the other people on this. Violence is bad, hurting other people is bad. And so, I think anybody who was there are bad. And, I'm not going to worry too much about who is with what group. Let's just get them all. And if they just happen to include, no Antifa, that's how it is.
But yeah, speaking of people involved. So, Joe, I was talking to today, who pointed out the three awfulsome irony or ironic situations or events that it's on footage that one of these awful people picks up a fire extinguisher, throws it at a cop. It hits one cop, bounces off, and hits another cop. The person who threw the fire extinguisher is an active firefighter.
Yep.
There was a woman who was wearing is it a New Hampshire Don't Tread on? No, where's the Don't Tread on Me flag?
No, it's just the Don't Tread on Me flag. She had the Don't Tread on Me flag. She was carrying the Don't Tread on Me flag.
And what happened to this woman?
She apparently got trampled
and
by the mob. So, in fairness, maybe not great readers that trampled her.
And then, and this is awful, and I am not joking, making light of this. The most awful moment is that a cop was beat to death with an American flag. Like truly
Yeah,
beat to, and all the Blue Lives Matters people have been silent. All the disrespecting the flag people are silent, except one brave sheriff in the state of Kentucky stepped forward, and he is outraged. He is outraged of the disrespect that the flag was shown last week.
well, yeah. Well, yeah, we're gonna go back, but so before we get to that point, though, I mean, I think that was one of the most terrifying things that I saw among the footage is, and I'm gonna be paraphrasing here, but when one of these insurgents come in and say, get their gun, shoot him with their gun, like. So there were people calling on their fellow insurgents to get the gun out of the law enforcement's hands and then shoot them with their own guns. And I'm just thinking that is like one of the scarier things I've heard in terms of in the context of this being America.
People roaming the hallway saying, "Where's Nancy?" and hang Mike Pence. And again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much.
Yeah.
It's just sickening. I want to ask
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're Friday night, late Friday night, East Coast time. Do you think Donnie Two Scoops pardons these people?
I'm not sure. Like, I don't know that he would, from the standpoint of, I think he's at a point where I think he's trying to reform his brand a little to some degree, right? And so he can't on one hand say that he's against all of these things and then pardon them. Not that hypocrisy isn't something that we've seen in the past, but still, just in terms of maintaining the brand for the future, I don't know that I don't know what he gains out of pardoning these people, right?
Well, I mean, they're so loyal to him, and the out of work actor who lives with his mom, who is in prison on a hunger strike because he will only eat organic food. His lawyer is flat out asking for a pardon, and
I get it, but I mean, I think if you look at the overall fandom, for lack of a better term, I think they're willing to sacrifice these small few to say, hey, these guys are the exceptions. This is not America. This is not who we want to be. We're actually a lot better than that. And I think it's easy for a lot of those people to also distance themselves from the so-called violent, I think it's easier for them to dispose of them as this violent, subgroup that, needed to be, dealt with. But here's still the rest of us who are still suspicious about the elections, and we still have questions about what happened in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Arizona and whatnot. So I have a feeling that it's, he probably will not pardon them, let them fall and say, yeah, these are the people that went too far, but the next time we'll be a little bit more organized, and so that we don't do this. I kind of think that they don't get pardoned.
Well, here's a couple scary thoughts that I have. It's, on one hand, I think it's awesome because of the protest in Seattle and Portland. Bloatas, by executive order, signed a law that's like a 10-year minimum sentence, for it. So these people are going to be going away because of the executive law. So they're thinking they're
because
on
it's
his
a federal
team.
building, right? I think, right?
Yeah,
because
they think they're heroes protecting his right to be president, and they're going to go away for 10 years. If he pardons them before Wednesday, which he has to noon on Wednesday to do anything. But if he pardons it, are these people given, they think they might be given the green light. It's like, oh, we can go ahead and do this, not realizing, because on one hand, he's not going to have the pardon power. But on the other hand, the sad, scary thing, 74 million people voted for him. And that's one of the rallying cries. It's like, he must be president. 74 million people voted for him. Well, the other guy had 81. And again, I'll defer to you, the math expert. I think 81's more than 74. I think.
Well, I mean, but I mean,
So but
so we're talking about the popular vote versus the electoral
no.
college.
I was just kidding about like, so they think that's irrational. It's like, well, he had 74 million votes. How can he not be president? But the thing is, out of that 74 million people, even if only 10% of them absolutely 100% believe that they're fighting to keep him in the presidency, and after Wednesday think, well, I'm going to storm the Michigan State House, I'm going to storm the Baltimore, Capitol, I'm going to storm this, I'm going to get pardoned because he pardoned these other guys, and when he remains president, he's going to pardon me. What my fear level and anxiety about Wednesday coming up, it's palpable.
So the kind of the fear part, I completely agree. I will say that I am thankful that I do not live in a state capital, because my understanding is that the state capitals are the targets. and I'm sorry for being that way, but Los Angeles has enough other stuff going on. We don't need another stuff piled on top of that. The COVID situation here is just nuts. But I think so. I can't predict the future, right? So, but the fear, I think, is legitimate. I mean, I think ultimately it's probably, I would like to think that it's in Donald Trump's best interest for the long run not to pardon these people, right? Because that means that while he has no real control over anything in the 4 years, things could get could get really bad, and I don't know that helps him.
Well, one of the interesting things is you saw the footage a couple weeks ago where there was some Proud Boy rally and the cops were breaking them up because it was after curfew, and the Proud Boys instantly start throwing stuff and fighting with the cops and like, we had your back all summer. It's like, so is it going to be seen? It's like, hey, we stormed this for you. You told us to come down. Right. Some of the interesting, talking about the pardoning, and we discussed it a little bit this week, on the text chain. Some of the things, if the talk for months has been, is he going to blanket pardon himself and his family for crimes known and unknown? We're going to find out the true power of the pardon, because if he says, I'm going to pardon Ivanka for crimes known and unknown, and she turned out she had murdered somebody, you can't do that. I think when you plead guilty to something, you have to stand up in court and say, Michael Flynn, when he stood up in court and he pled guilty, he had to stand up and said, I did X, Y, and Z. This is how this went down. This was my role in it. If you plead guilty to something, so if you're going to get pardoned, I don't think you can get a blanket pardon. You can be pardoned for.
I think Nixon did that. I mean, Ford did that for Nixon, right? So it seems like you can. I think the part that's in question is whether you can pardon yourself. Is the part that's and obviously. It would be great if we actually knew a lawyer or something like that.
I think Nick's in jail, but here's the interesting thing. And we should actually have John on and talk about this, and maybe we'll make him do that next week. But here's something interesting that was brought up that you and I and everybody else who is paying attention, who listens to something other than, what is it, Newsmax or something like that, we're learning about the downside of pardon. So if you get a pardon or you pardon yourself, if he goes and pardons himself, well, it is seen as an admission of guilt. And if he pardons himself for everything, like, this riot, it's actually going to be used against him in civil cases, which there will be hundreds of civil cases coming out of this. Like every cop who was assaulted and that riot has a civil case against him. So if he pardons himself for doing this, here's the other thing. If you pardon yourself, you then cannot take the Fifth Amendment. And so when you're no longer president, fun fact, you can't avoid subpoenas anymore. You can't say, Senate, I'm not coming to your little, shindig. I'm not going to honor that subpoena. No, you're a private citizen. You will be dragged in here or you'll be dragged to jail. And once you come in, you can't take the Fifth. And if you do try to take the Fifth or you lie, I pardoned myself on this crime, so I got away with it. Well, when you're asked questions about it, if you lie, well, then you're perjuring yourself. And it kind of, now it's a different crime. And again, like, they didn't get Manafort for this, they got him for that, but it
Right.
came from perjuring yourself on this. So it's going to be interesting. But it was funny when we talked about this a moment ago. I for a nanosecond, and I'm admitting this, and as I'm saying it, I know the scoffing I'm going to get. I know oh my God, is he really that much of a moron? And let me say, yeah, I am. But last week, I had a moment where I said to management, I might take the boys down to the inauguration. And part of my thinking is, it's like, it's historical. They've seen all the things on the news, and I kind of want them to know, as awful as it is, as awful as this person is, we're bigger than this, that the country is bigger than this, that, some of the checks and balances have hold. Surprisingly, the Supreme Court has hold. Even though he had 3 people put in that Supreme Court in the last 2 years, they voted 9-0 to not take a case that had no merit. So the guardrails have hold. And part of me was like, maybe we'll do this. And I actually talked to the little guy about it. And he's like, is it going to be fun? And I told him, oh my God, it's going to suck. And he was laughing. And he goes, will it really? I said, oh, dude, it will be one of the worst days of your life. You have to stand there in the cold for hours and hours and hours. He goes, well, can you sit down? I'm like, there's nowhere to sit down. There's nowhere to pee. It will suck. He goes, well, do we have to go? I said, well, it might be a once in a lifetime thing, but I'm going to talk to Mom about it. And I did. And then, like, later that day, I was bringing some Christmas stuff out to the storage shed, and I had to move the little guy's bikes out of the way to be able to put the Christmas stuff in. And I went to pick up one of their helmets. I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to go, I should bring their helmet. As I go to reach for the helmet, I'm like, right, the face that you're making right now. The face that you're making right now.
It's really the, remember when the aliens were coming? I'm trying to remember what movie it was, where like all these people, went to the roof of that building,
yes.
They say, hey, the aliens are coming. We're going to greet them. Was it Independence Day?
And
or whatever it was?
Vaporized.
Yeah. So it's like, you could either choose to go to the roof of that building to greet that, or you could, just kind of.
But I did. And like I said, it was all. And I called my sister and I told her I'm thinking. And then when I told her this story, she's like, I didn't want to say, are you that fucking stupid? I was hoping you were going to come to your senses without me having to intervene. But I'm glad that you did. But I did. I'm like, because the little guy has this really cool R2D2, bike helmet. And as I go to reach for it, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? If you think he needs a fucking helmet, why are you doing this? So we're not going to DC next week. And then even if I wanted to, I can go online and look at Airbnb. Oh, wait, not so fast.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Yeah, Airbnb's we're canceling all this shit.
But at least they also paid the hosts for those.
Oh, they did.
Also.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So at least they get a small brownie point for that.
So I know Joe Biden has to come in and be president, and the shitstorm is getting worse every day that he's going to have to tackle. The shitstorm that Clinton had to clean up was pretty bad. The shitstorm that Obama had to clean up was pretty bad. I don't remember in the last 150 years somebody who had to come in and clean up a shitstorm.
Well, yeah. I think the difference is that, the other presidents, and you could. So I actually am personally kind of an HW fan. I actually like George H.W. Bush, even though, he left Clinton with a huge economic mess. But I think the other presidents did what they thought were their things. And obviously there we could talk on and on about the undercurrent of how what they were trying to do was evil in nature. So I get it. But putting that aside, there isn't an intentional, willful attempt to sabotage the initial entry for Biden into his presidency that occurred with the other presidents. The other presidents understood that, okay, it's going to be a new regime, and they'll do some of those, they'll do some of these, last minute executive orders and last minute pardons and whatnot. And so every president has done that. But I think it was really in the spirit of we want to make sure that we can get these last few things in that aligns with our philosophy versus we're going to screw this guy, right? And so I think that's the kind of
And
the
the
fundamental
fact that
difference.
even as of today, even just a few days away, that they're still not getting notes on COVID. They're still not getting, but that's something else. Do you think? Let me just ask you real quick before we move on. I mean, you think there's a difference between going after this outgoing administration and letting things go? With Nixon and all that stuff, with Obama turning the page and not going after Dick Cheney and not going after W4, what the rest of the world considers war crimes and other things and stuff like that. It's like, hey, we have too much shit to do. What is your thoughts on moving forward?
It's interesting because I think it's this part of it is really on. Well, what I think should happen going forward is that this guy should not be allowed to be president again, right? So I know that there are multiple measures, and I'm not going to go into the different options as much as to say I think it would be in the best interest of this country that this guy cannot run for president ever again, right? And there are several ways to get to that point. I think the real question is, where that the Republican Party has a certain, fracture right now where they're trying to deal, because you're seeing it, right? You're seeing the kind of a strange record, but a record support for for impeachment by the president's own party, right? So you have this certainly a bigger fracture than you had seen even with Nixon.
And it's funny that 10 out of 200
right
is
sure.
a fracture.
Yeah.
Is a fracture,
but
like
still, right?
Now my numbers say that's about 5%. So
well, look,
but I'm not the mathematician. I'm not the math, right?
Listen, a record is a record. Oh, that's all I'm going to say.
So we will move on a little bit. Let's just for 1 second. I only want to mention this, not to go out of my way to belabor the point that the GOP is an unmitigated terrorist organization. But finally, it's taken 5 years. But finally, the former governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder. I mean, when the World Health Organization stepped in, when the UN had to step in, to the situation going on in Flint, when Canada was airlifting water to Flint at the same time, the former governor, again, lo and behold, a Republican governor saying, yeah, those guys are black, so fuck them. But it's going to be interesting to see. It's taken 5 years to get here, but that's kind of been a little bit lost in the news.
That whole story is just so heartbreakingly tragic because one of the things that actually happened was that they could have actually prevented this if they actually installed this device, which would have cost them let's say in the hundreds of thousands, like say $500,000 or something like that. And that filtering, it's not a filtering process, but this pre-treating process would have done the job to prevent this from happening. And so I just wonder at the thinking of the people who said, yeah, this is a multi-million-dollar project, but we're not going to spend a few $100,000 to not send crud down our pipes. And so part of what's not clear to me is who knew what and who understood what, because that's the part that blows my mind. So that's part one. Part two is that he's getting slapped with a misdemeanor. It's like, what is that? There are people's lives who have been ruined, people's health who have, that's just been absolutely ruined.
Oh, the children who had lead poisoning. And you don't get over that.
What, it's a misdemeanor. So sure. I mean, the guy's political career was already done. And so what's the misdemeanor going to do? So I'm hoping that what this means, people can do another round of going after money, right? So that the people who are hurt get paid. I mean, there's a small amount that they're getting paid, but I think that they deserve more, right? Especially because they just happen to be in a country where these people can't really, necessarily get health care. So, what I really care about is I'm really, just because what they're getting in terms of justice is so little, I just really cared a lot more about the victims being helped. I mean, that's really.
I think if the former governor, is found guilty, I think that helps everybody in the civil cases.
So that's what I'm hoping, right? Yeah.
But again, kids who were subjected to lead poisoning don't get over it. It comes down to so very little money in the grand scheme of things. An extra, 0.5%. I'm thinking about the Family Guy, when the Family Guy did the Star Wars episode, and somebody points out to Stewie that there's this tiny 1 in a billion. This is exhaust port that might, and he's like, yeah, maybe we should cover that up. Well, let's get a few estimates first. It's like, it's like, let's shop around. Let's see if we can. You got this planet size, moon, and you want to save a couple bucks. Really quickly, Biff, what are the priorities for the Biden administration as you see them? Before I let you go on that, you got a 2-year window. Assume you're losing the Senate in 2 years, because most of the time you lose a few Senate seats. It's the way it happens. Right. Either side, midterm elections, you usually lose some seats either way. So assume that you have 2 years to get done what you want to get done. What are the 3-4 things you have to do?
Well, I think the priority really is tied to this COVID related stuff, right? So I think there's really two fronts. One of which is, Biden's already started on in regards to a proposal that he has, that $1.9 trillion proposal to pay people more and all that stuff. But we really have to get this under control so that, we can really earnestly start opening stuff up, right? So I think it's a tough one, just because of the resistance to some of the measures that's going to be required. But I think this is where it becomes really important for everybody to realize that this not going away is really, really bad for the country. LA is starting to realize it. I mean, I literally watched a Twitter feed from, I follow the LA County Fire Department because I'm in a fire zone. So I just kind of like to see where they're paying attention to, like, fires that might prop up, but they also tweet stuff regarding other emergency cases. And I literally watched the LA Fire tweet out their response to a car accident where they were being denied ambulance delivery to one hospital. It happened right near our old Friday night hockey rink. So there's a Mayo Clinic literally like less than 2 miles from where the accident happened. And the Mayo Clinic said, yeah, we don't have capacity. We're refusing. And then apparently there were some negotiations that happened where Mayo Clinic decided they'll take one, and a Holy Cross that's a little further down took the other. But we're at a point where LA, county ambulances have to essentially say, hey, we're bringing this guy and this patient, and the hospital is saying, no, you're not. So that's where we're at. There just has to be a better national response. And my fear obviously is that the lack of unity in this country is going to keep that from happening. I mean, when they talk about unity, I just want to tell them, who the hell cares about, whether a guy who's got, 4 days left on the job loses his job a little early or not? Can we just talk about the fact that we have hospitals overloaded? And that, can we just all get behind the fact that everybody should wear a freaking mask?
Well, that's the number one thing. I have a friend who comes from Japan who on a regular basis sends me Japanese Twitter feeds showing absolutely jam-packed. You can't get one more tiny, anime, Pokemon figure into the subway. You just can't. I mean, it's bulging at the seams, but yet COVID doesn't seem to be affecting the great city of Tokyo the same way it is Los Angeles. And it's all because of masks.
That's the thing, yeah. I mean, it's Tokyo, LA, about the same population. Tokyo are in a state of emergency, and they're freaking out because I think they've hit cases in the thousands per day, and versus LA, which recently had a 20,000 case day, but it's 1/10 of the daily cases, and they might get 1 to 10 deaths versus here we're talking about a death every 6 minutes in LA, right? It's a different magnitude.
But it's all mass. There is no social distancing in Tokyo.
Well, not only that. I mean, Tokyo is a city driven by public transportation, so everybody takes public transportation.
Well, that's what I mean. But they're all wearing masks.
Right.
You'll send these tweets to us, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, you can't believe all those people are crammed in there. But you don't see one asshole without a mask, and not one asshole with a mask under their nose. And Biden comes in next week and says, fuck you, North Dakota, there's a mask order. Fuck you, Arizona, there's a mask order. But getting them to enforce it. When I say, what would you really like to see Biden do that he won't be able to get done without the Senate and without the House? You can't get rid of the Electoral College. You need 2/3 of vote.
No.
It's going to be, I don't know about statehood because it would be great. I mean, I've been a huge proponent of DC being a state for a couple decades now. And the fact that this insurgency happens and the mayor doesn't have a National Guard to call up. And the mayor is on the phone with the governor, the Republican governor of Maryland, who has his National Guard at the state border waiting to come in and help. On the phone with the governor of Virginia, another Republican, who has his National Guard on the border waiting to come in from the other side. And it's held up because you need approval from the Department of Defense. And if there was ever an argument to be made in real time, it's that. My biggest thing that I would like to see him push through, or that the Democrats will push through. Because once you give something, it's very hard to take away. All our Canadian friends will tell you Canada is much more conservative than people think. And if universal health care didn't exist in Canada and you tried to install it today, it would have the same pushback that we've had with the ACA and slash Obamacare.
We have an FNH friend who is from Canada who just bags on the Canadian healthcare system. So yeah,
but just you wouldn't be able to get it put in today if it didn't already exist. But it's been there for 50 years. You can't get rid of it, and they found that out. For what are we talking? We're talking 11 years they've been trying to repeal it. Blah, blah, blah. My point is the one big thing that I think the Democrats have to say, we're going to jam this through. Fuck you, motherfuckers. A Voting Rights Act. You have to have a new, absolutely vibrant, robust John Lewis Voting Rights Act that federally protects mail-in voting in every state. You have to refund, and there are so many things you could do with the post office. You should make post office mini banks. Like there's a big thing about being able to cash checks and stuff. But either way, if mail-in ballots, which the reason they fought so hard because of mail-in ballots, that's probably the number one thing that got Biden elected. And they know that. Mail-in ballots was the number one thing I think that helped him get over the hump. And they know it, which is why they work so hard. You got 2 years, and once you mandate it, once you get that Voting Rights Act through, once you protect the post office, once you protect in mail-in ballots, it would be near impossible to retract that even if you lose the Senate in 2 years.
Right. And I'd also like to see, and not that, I don't know how much they can achieve this, but I'd like to see a little bit more in terms of a federal, mandate on defining the voter. Because what's happening regionally is that you have like states that require IDs, and we know that IDs create a hurdle for people of the lowest income tier, and also in a lot of these states where there is a challenge for some people to get IDs, and they don't necessarily need IDs for their day-to-day because they're living kind of a cash basis life, but they're not able to vote because getting to a DMV is bad enough in any state on any day, but in some of these areas where you don't have the means and the nearest DMV is miles and miles away, there's a lot of state regulations now that are mandating these IDs and stuff like that, which I'd like to see, if anything, something that's not a social security number, that is, maybe a federal voter, ID number or something like that, that does nothing else aside from identifying you as a voter, might be something we need. And, obviously I don't think that that's something that they can tackle, but eventually I'd like to see that. Right?
Well, like I said, you got 2 years to decide on one or two things that you make a signature thing that will stand the next 50 years, and that's the only time that
Well, it's not going to include J-Lo performing at the inauguration, so he blew that already.
Well, and I think the nation is worse off for it. We're going to move on because going forward, I'm really hoping in a couple weeks to have the political talk minimized and talk about fun stuff and make fun of, different cultures, because for the last
You're
3
talking
years,
about my people again, aren't you?
Well,
Making fun of different cultures. You always freaking go there.
I listen. I had the luxury of shitting on the fine Portuguese culture for the last 3 years under the umbrella. Hey, I'm not racist. My co-host is Portuguese.
This is a freaking country that this has this fantasy of this Oreo cream filling. I mean, you're mixing, fat with sugar, and you're calling it the Oreo filling, and somehow that's a great thing. And then you're gonna bag on my people just because we eat dried fish.
Yes, I am. Every chance I get.
It's freaking natural.
So, which is funny because, my management often refers to herself as one of those Oreos where, the vanilla Oreos where, a little yellow on the outside, but tragically white on the inside.
That's Twinkies, another one. Bananas, another one.
Yeah. And the great thing is, it is so funny that I'm Casper the Ghost White, and my current roommate, my current wife, current management is of the Asian persuasion. Biff,
apparently,
on the other hand,
the yellow fever at some point in your life.
Biff, on the other hand, said, it's like, I'm going the complete opposite way. I'm going down. Once you go white, you go. I don't know.
That's the weird stuff, right? So within our circle of Friday Night Hockey friends, right? We have 3 other friends that have wives of Japanese descent, plus you who has a wife of half Korean descent. But the 3 white dudes with wives of Japanese descent, 2 of them actually have, like me, legit Japanese nationals as wives.
Right. Like
right?
and they're all great stories.
It's like I am talking to my white friends' wives in Japanese.
So going to move on to some fun stuff. As I said, I was really hoping that I would continue doing this forevermore with Joe, and the future is unwritten yet. We don't know if I can lure him back to do this with us. But either way, Joe kind of, because I pointed out, he put it in writing. He used the big boy word perpetuity, which I would have had to look up, except the fact that I rode to and from F&H for 10 years with John, so I know a bunch of big boy legal terms. So I have the right to use his voice and his likeness. So to keep fanning the flames of a rekindled romance, I think each and every week, and I'm not sure, I haven't locked in on a name yet. You can help out here. If it's like This Week in Joe, or Joe's Greatest Hits, all I know
Greatest Hits?
Yeah.
Oh, Greatest Hits. I thought you said Greatest Tits.
Well, no, I don't think he's up to a B cup yet, but you know what I mean? He's not as old as you and I. Give him time. Maybe time.
Joe is just gonna. Maybe Joe can give us like a weekly rating of his favorite tits.
I'm sure that will go over great with his management. No, but
what are you talking about? Tits are birds. Do you not know this?
No.
Oh my God! What a pervert you are.
Yeah. Hey, officer.
Attenborough can tell you all about tits.
Officer,
I can send you some BBC video where Attenborough is talking about tits.
Officer, I was just sticking my dick through this hole in this wall when this sick son of a bitch comes by. I see what we've done. No, Joe is going to be part of this. I'm not sure what clip I'm going to play. I actually pulled a few clips the other day. Joe sent me some great clips. I just know that much like you being on the podcast right now, I again am the Garfunkel to somebody else's Simon, and I understand that this clip, whichever one it would be.
I hate to tell you this, but right now we're Milli Vanilli.
Wait, well, which is the one with the talent? See, so
we're Milli Vanilli.
But whatever clip I go with, it will be the highlight of the show. And here it is, voice of Joe from the past. Take it away. we want to go to a defunct sponsor, or do you have a self-indulgent thing you've been planning on surprising me with all week?
I have no plans whatsoever. Do you want to improv something or toss something at me quick?
Yeah. How have you ever done a Don Adams versus Don Knotts rap battle?
No,
Could you do a freeform rap battle between Don Knotts and Don Adams? And go.
All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Flow like a harpoon, daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. To the extreme, I walk a mic like a vandal, light up a stage and wax a chump like a candle. Dance to the speaker that booms. Poison your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly, when I play a dope melody, anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it, you better gain weight, you better hit bullseye, or the kid won't play. If you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the beat while my DJ revolves it. I don't know. Is that it?
I literally, this is the last podcast because you just touched the sun. You just touched the sun.
I did
Joe.
it. I ended the podcast with
Honestly,
my talent.
Yes. And who had that on the Vegas board? Like, who took that prop bet? Let me see. No one. It was never going to happen to one with the odds laid down in Vegas. I don't know why the other day I was thinking, because a little while ago when we were talking, I conflated Don Knotts with Don Adams. And so what made me just say that? I don't know what scared me more, the fact that you could do it on the spot or that you know the words too.
I'm white. I'm 42. I'm American. I'm a dork.
See, what I told you, the highlight of the show always will be Joe's docile tones.
When it comes down to it, like, Joe is really the only trained professional in the group, right? So
true, professional, funny, good looking. So this week in sport, and it's to be decided.
Oh my God, the NHL season started.
What? It
I'm
did?
sorry.
I didn't know that. No.
Shut the hell up. Oh my God. Oh, my Patriots didn't make the playoffs. I'm so sad.
You know what?
This doesn't start until the Bruins get in the playoffs.
My Patriots did not make the playoffs, but they also did not accept a Presidential Medal of Honor this week. So I will take, if I was given the choice, the Patriots make the playoffs, Bill Belichick takes the Medal of Honor, I would happily not make the playoffs. No, I was going to say, if
you know what, here's the bottom line. You and I are, I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and you and I are in a similar arena, and I really beseech all Pittsburgh and New England fans to take this up. You know what? If your season it sucks, so be it. You have a bunch of Super Bowls that
I'm good for life. Like, if they never win again, right?
And so I want both of our fandoms, and even those Cowboys fans, because I think they have like 5, and the 49ers fans, and because they have like 5.
Yep.
All of those people, just, you know what? Everybody, just calm the heck down. You had your fill of the Super Bowls.
Look, I was serious.
If it's a bad year, it's a bad year.
When I had said, if he takes a medal, I'm done. And the same way I lived my love for the Patriots. My love for the Patriots was matched for my love for the Red Sox my whole life. Maybe even more so, in the 80s and stuff like that. I was the hugest Red Sox fan. I never thought I'd see them win the World Series. I saw them win 3 World Series before I was done with them. When I think they crossed a line that I couldn't forgive X, Y, and Z anymore, I'm happy. I'm set for life. I never thought I'd get 1 World Series. As far as the Patriots go,
but what about all those people that lived in that 86-year span where they were born?
That's my grandfather.
Born and died in the 86 years?
Yep.
That sucked.
Yep. No, it really did. But the same thing. Look, I'm always going to be a Patriot fan. I will say this season has been so much more relaxing because I didn't have the anxiety. I could be a casual fan. I had no expectations, which they lived up to. At one point, week 10, week 11, had they won that game, they had a weaker schedule. They could have won, got a little help. And when they lost that game, and I forget who blew them out, I was like, I have the month of December to enjoy Christmas and other things and movies and not believe. But but that said, I wanted to move on to talk about hockey. If you want to, when we're done recording this, I'm happy to do a quick, sideshow for those who forget what sideshows are. They're micro targeted, one topic thing.
I mean, do people don't need to hear about my hockey predictions?
Yes, they do.
No,
yes, they do.
I mean, they don't need an entire sideshow.
No. Sideshows can be 15, 20 minutes. They don't have to be, that big. We can also mix in, your top 5 NHL guys that you've had shoot against you and who was the scariest one. Don't answer it now.
No.
Maybe we'll save that.
You know what? I actually, so I'm sorry I didn't, tell you about this earlier, but I thought I will do a set of weekly NHL predictions as predicted by Diane Chambers. Okay, so we go kind of deep into the Cheers catalog, and so when we talk about Cheers, we're talking about, we're old. Shut the hell up. Is Cheers even running on syndication right now?
As a loyal listener, you will know last year, Joe took great pride in getting through the entire catalog.
Okay, so this is super. So Joe hopefully remembers that one episode where they're talking about football predictions, and Diane is essentially picking winners based on the team's names. So, obviously, a Bear is always going to beat a Dolphin. So, I'm going to pick 5 games from this week and pick them strictly based on Diane Chambers standards. And next week, I'm going to see how many I get right.
What do you got?
Okay. So, first of all, January 18th, we're going to start with, Monday's games. Buffalo at Philadelphia. So, we're talking about the Sabres and the Flyers. And already, I have a pretty tough matchup because I don't know how to match a Sabre against a Flyer, but I'm going to say that the Sabre is a cutlery. It's something that that kind of
like a Ginsu knife,
right? And a Flyer
or a ninja sword,
right? So I'm gonna and a Flyer is some dude flying is my guess. Even better if it's one of those flyers that you post on
looking for a base player.
Telephone post, right? That thing's not going to beat anybody. So I'm going to, at this point, pick Buffalo over Philadelphia on the 18th, on Monday. On Tuesday, we've got Chicago Blackhawks, which is a name that should be changed, but that's a different discussion, at Florida Panthers. This is another tricky one because we're talking about Blackhawks, which to me implies multiple Blackhawks, but then you have Panthers. So if you have a group of Blackhawks versus a Pride, is that what you call a Panthers? I'd have to believe they're going to put my money on the Panthers. So I'm going to pick Florida over Chicago on that one.
And if you merge the two of them together and it's Black Panthers, then you got Wakanda Forever.
Right. Now the next one is the Coyotes versus Arizona Coyotes versus the Las Vegas Golden Knights on Wednesday, inauguration night. Here, Coyotes are not as scary as Panthers. They're kind of like big dogs, but not that big. And those Vegas Knights all have armor, plus they have the sword. So at this point, I think I have to pick Vegas. And then we have the Tampa Bay Lightning versus Columbus Blue Jackets. So the Blue Jackets are supposedly these warrior guys, but they're also freaking bugs. We all know that Lightning is scary as, all heck. So obviously it's going to be the Lightning over the Blue Jackets. So I'm taking the Lightning. And then next one is Edmonton at Toronto. The Edmonton Oilers at Toronto Maple Leafs. And we all know if there's anything that is a pushover is a piece of leaf. What can a piece of leaf possibly be? If I ask you, if I was going to have a battle with a maple leaf, what could the maple leaf, defeat?
Get your hands really sticky so you wouldn't be able to pick stuff up, or you would, but then you wouldn't be able to get it off.
No, I cannot. Maybe he has a chance against a rosemary bush. I don't know. So obviously Edmonton.
What if rosemary shaved?
Thank you.
So let me ask you this before your prediction: what do the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Titanic have in common?
Are you talking about they're both great before they hit the ice? Is that the joke? Have I heard that joke before? Yes.
You have.
Yeah. Oh, for the record, I am a Leafs fan. So
sorry.
I am a Leafs fan.
Yeah,
so
we heard you.
Yeah.
All right. So who are you picking?
I'm picking the Oilers, of course.
All right.
I will say, spoiler alert, I don't think that there is actually a team based on the Diane Chambers criteria that the Leafs will win this year, period. I have a feeling that the Leafs will lose every game this period.
Were you the one who made up the Toronto Maple Leaf undefeated season shirts and brought them to hockey?
I did not do that.
Do you have your shirt? Was it Al?
No, it was not. It's somebody else. Yeah, somebody else had it, but yeah.
Somebody walked in and gave us all Leaf undefeated season shirts.
I am not that stupid Leaf fan.
So you know what? We are. I think we're gonna do a sideshow. We'll make it quick, only because I don't want this to be a 2-hour podcast. I do want to make sure that we'll talk a little bit about the season and about Willie O'Ree, who finally should have had his number retired by the Bruins. Should have had some kind. I mean, it took 40 years, 50 years to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we could expand on all of that, and I actually do have a Willie O'Ree story also, so we can expand on that also.
And so we will do. So tune in this Thursday. There will be a sideshow that will be mostly Biff, which will make everybody happy. Do you just because I only have the same format that we already did, and this is usually where Joe really drives the ship. You got any video game tips or news or stories there that you like to? Oh, I got one, and I just thought about this, but it crosses over into your homeland. Nintendo Land has just been pushed back. The opening was supposed to be in a couple weeks, and because of COVID, they don't know when they're going. Mike, it's funny because I've always wanted to go to Tokyo. I've talked for years about I would want to go with somebody like Biff or our friend Scotty, and his wife. It's nice to go to a city and see all the touristy stuff that everybody can see, but it's also nice when people come to Boston. Our friend Ross, when he used to live in Boston, my mom is great about, okay, these are the things on the tour guide that you got to see are great, but this is where you have to go for Italian food. This is a really thing that doesn't make the, so I would want to go and do that. But my sons, ever since hearing about Nintendo Land, are dying to go. So we actually did. We with some of the Christmas money, we went to the bank, started accounts. It's like, okay, if you really want to go on this trip, let's plan for 18 months, 2 years from now. Hopefully the world's right by then. I know Biff goes back every couple of years, but maybe we all go to Nintendo Land. But what are you hearing about it being pushed back, and what are people on the ground there saying?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we're going to go into that kind of sad, COVID led also, but there is a little bit of, so even though Japan's numbers have looked really good compared to the US, Japan is measuring themselves against the rest of East Asia, and in comparison to the rest of East Asia, Japan is a shit show. So in that sense, and it's a problem because there's two things that's kind of going on. Number one is that the government has a limited powers, and constitutionally, in terms of what they can impose on things like businesses and stuff like that. Like they can't necessarily mandate businesses to close and stuff like that. They can only ask. That's the difference. Yeah, apparently they went to some war, and the outcome of the war was kind of bad. And some other country apparently told them that they have to rewrite their constitution, and that constitution that they rewrote kind of makes the government not that powerful anymore. So I don't know what happened there. It was before I was born, but anyway. There was some shit that happened a long time ago. But bottom line is that, so what they're literally doing is that they're ask businesses to do certain things, and then in some cases, depending on the nature of their request, they may reimburse them a certain nominal amount for doing things like closing early or limiting, capacity and stuff like that, right? And then the only thing that they have is that Japan is a country that is very conscientious of reputation and what other people think of you. So if you're seen as business or a person who's not really doing what for the greater good, then they kind of get shunned. So businesses don't want to be blackballed. So that's the only thing that they have going for them. But there's a lot of frustration regarding that. And the other thing is and Japan clearly wants to make 2021 Summer Olympics happen. And right now, a majority of the Japanese are against the 2021 Olympics happening based on their current state. So, we'll see what happens. But I think just based on constitutionally what can happen, I think that Japan is going to go into a state of lockdown that is effectively a voluntary lockdown. The difference is that unlike this country, even though it's considered to be voluntary, I think a lot of people and businesses will comply to make sure that they can get rid of this. So I think that it'll probably be okay by this time next year, largely because Japan is so motivated to have the Olympics happen.
And when are you planning on? When do you think your next trip to the homeland will be? And I mean, Japan, not Canada.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to be spring of 2022 is my guess.
And would Nintendo Land be on your agenda?
Hell no, I'm not a 12-year-old, Jock.
It's not just for 12-year-olds.
Jock, I don't even go to Disneyland. I don't even like Disneyland. Why would I go across the freaking ocean to go to an amusement park when I don't like the amusement park that I could drive to?
Because this is Mario and it's not a mouse. All right.
It's an amusement park. You can do the Mario Kart too, though. The Mario Kart. You know about the Mario Kart in Tokyo?
No.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me? So you dress up as one of the Marios and you drive these little whatever carts through the streets of Tokyo.
Really?
I can't believe that I didn't tell you about this.
No.
This has been existing for a while now. This has been so
like in some cities where you can rent a moped and you can rent a bike.
This group thing where they go through this group goes through this kind of preset route through Tokyo.
Well, I'm not sure why we're not there now. I really am. You're a big Jeopardy guy. Have you watched this week? Well, first of all, did you watch?
First of all, just because I'm a nerd, I am not a big Jeopardy guy.
Do you watch Jeopardy on a regular basis?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? You know what is funny? And this kind of goes along the wheelhouse of our friend Joe, is that I actually am a regular viewer of the Buzzer channel. And the funny thing is that one of the regular programming on a daily basis is Classic Concentration, hosted by Alex Trebek. And my son walks in and says, "Oh my God, that's Alex Trebek. Why does he have a mustache?" And I'm like, it was a 20-minute explanation of the whole history.
I will see if I can find this for you while we're talking about the great Alex Trebek. About a week ago, management and I are going through, and I don't know what you call it, like the DVD art, you know what I mean, to clean it up.
Yeah, right. The TiVo-ish thing, right?
Right. And there's like a hockey night thing. And she goes, "Oh, do you need this?" I said, yes. I taped that for you. And the look she gave me of like, okay. And so I play it for her where they were playing, I want to say it was 1968 Stanley Cup recap, like almost like a newsreel type thing.
Right. Yep.
That Alex Trebek was the voice of. like that was one of his first jobs, was doing these recap. And honestly, it was kind of a newsreel at a movie theater type thing. And he was breaking down a New York Rangers, Chicago series. And the voice was a younger voice, but it's unmistakably Alex Trebek. And I don't say anything to her. It's like, "Oh, I recorded this for you." And it took about 10, 12 seconds. And you can see why am I watching this? Hey, wait, is that Alex Trebek? And I'm like, it is. And then it comes out of the clip and the guys were like, talking about, for a long time, he was part of the CBC broadcast of Hockey Night in Canada. And he did these, and then it showed a couple other clips that he had done along the way. So, no, I wasn't sure if, where you stood on that, but I will, as you know, we usually wrap it up with some parenting advice. I will say I've known Biff before he had a son. And, just like Joe, you're old. Well, your son and Joe's oldest are about the same age. You guys have both done tremendous jobs. And I will say, I think one of my favorite moments with Biff, and when I was running down the stuff we did, I can't believe I left out. We've driven to Vegas a number of times. We've driven to Phoenix a number of times. I've stayed at your house dozens of times when I come back to visit over like the last 5 years. We met up in Washington for the football game. But I think the greatest trip we ever have taken was, Biff, the greatest trip we've ever taken was?
Ever? Are you talking about aside from the Arizona one?
Yeah. What is the greatest trip you and I have ever taken together? Singly. And when I say, if I have to say it, you're going to be like, "Oh my fucking God, I'm as dumb as my wife says." I'll give you a hint. It's the only trip we've taken that your son was with us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the trip when he was listening to like Eminem the whole time. You talking about that one?
No, I'm talking about we went to fucking Vancouver for the Winter Olympics in 2010.
Oh, you're talking about the 2010 Olympics.
And
Well,
we,
he took the trip, to Arizona. Also.
no, but we
absolutely.
weren't in the car together, which was out there. And I
Right.
and I remember,
Right.
and I bring this up, and we'll do a sideshow on that trip because I've got to go around the world. Biff has got to
That
go
was a
around the
great
world, dude.
That was a good trip.
Was the highlight of the trip, being in that 15-round shootout between the Czech Republic and Russia,
The Slovak,
Or-
no, not Czech Republic. it's the
or was the highlight
Slovaks and
of the trip our accommodations? How awesome was that boat? I mean, that was pretty awesome. But anyways,
It was awesome, but
So-
so that's, I guess you want to do another sideshow on that. Yeah.
I do, but we're wrapping the show. We always wrap with a parenting tip, and mine are awesome. Like pressure points don't leave bruises, and so I bring up that trip specifically because at that point I've known Biff for 12, 15 years. We have played together in playoff games. We played against each other in playoff games. I think by that point we saw a guy die together, or was it? No, that was after. That was no.
Yes.
Yeah,
did.
we
Yeah,
had
yeah, it
we'd
was-
we'd
yeah, it
already
was,
buried a
yeah,
close friend who died. And I knew you, and you're always smart and funny, and just one of the best people on planet. And it was so great you brought your son, and I got so many great stories about him. And I tell one specific story about him that's awesome, where we're checking out of a store, and he is just mesmerized. He's been there for 2 or 3 days at this point, and he is just mesmerized how polite everybody is. And I remember him asking,
Yeah.
"Is everybody here this nice?" And before you say anything, I'm like, "Well, first of all, yes. Second of all, where you come from, everybody's an a-hole." And so by default, they seem even nicer than they are. And the cashier looks at you and you're like, he's right. But I bring this up because you bring your kid with you.
Yep.
He had a great time.
Yep.
But at one point, he had pushed off doing homework, and And finally, this was the first time I like, oh, Biff's a dad. And I had never, I have seen people on the ice, cross-check you, take your feet out, shoot after the whistle. I've seen people in the locker room be like, just really horrific towards your ethnicity, mostly me. And I've never seen like that. And then when I saw that, I'm like, it was one of those moments. It was. I don't know, 1982. I'm at my friend Sully's house, and his mom's yelling at him, and it's like, and you're not getting yelled at, but you're there, and you can't go, and it's awkward. And I just remember, it's like, well, I hope I have my homework done. It's like, and it literally.
Well, did you freaking have homework?
I'm gonna say yes, and I got it done because I don't want to see that. No, but
Yeah.
that said, just like the common thread through most of the friends I have of our age, I've learned so much from people who had kids before me, like Taylor and like Al. But you and Joe and I kind of got a later start. So I'm not going to have a parenting tip this week. I'm turning it over to you, Biff. What is your parenting tip of the week?
I would say, I will say that it's never too early to start talking with your child about, what happens in the world. And my son is 21 now, and we're at a point where I don't know if I get any credit for this or if he kind of went through it on his own, but I recently got a lecture from my son about how the Federalist, strategies rooted in Nixon and Reagan is creating all of the, the anti-POC, legislation, sentiment, all of these combined phenomenon is a product of something that's, 50 years in the making. So I got this lecture from my 21-year-old child. So I will say, you know what? Go ahead and start early with, talking to your child about, what happens in the world. Because, a lot of the time, they may end up teaching you a few things.
And if you're not careful, you just might learn something.
That's right.
But Biff, congratulations on this. Is not your first podcast. You were on 2 years ago today, but officially, co-hosting with this. So I hope I was gentle while popping your co-hosting cherry. Again, the future is not written yet, so it's unknown what Joe's future with Carnival personnel this is. He birthed this. I held his hand while he pushed this out, and I won't say of what orifice. I will just say this is his baby, and I will not.
You had a good metaphor for a while, and then you had to go
I had
explicit. You
I
didn't
did.
really have to
I
go
fucked
there.
it up.
You could have just been symbolic.
Have
and,
you ever
all
seen
metaphoric.
me, Biff? How many times have you seen me? Honestly, have you pulled the car over because I see a dead horse on the side of the road, and I'm like, I'm gonna go beat the fuck out of that.
Yeah. I mean,
A few
still,
times.
I mean,
So thank you, Biff. I look forward to this. If you have any closing thoughts, let me know.
No.
See, because this is where I'm supposed to not say anything and just let you kind of ramble, and then you finally say,
You know what? Happy inauguration, everybody. Really, happy inauguration.
but more importantly, don't forget.
Painted up your lips, you roll the curved tinted hair. Ruby, are you contemplating going out somewhere? Shadow on the wall tells me the sun is going down. Take it up town. It's hard to love a man who's left so bent to paralyzed. And the wants and the needs of a woman your age moving out of your eyes. It won't be long, I've heard them say, till I'm not around. Got to turn around. Wasn't me that started that old crazy Asian war. And I was proud to know into my patriotic joy. Yeah, it's true, I know I'm not the man I used to She's leaving now 'cause I just heard the slamming of the door. The way I know I've heard it slam 1,000 times before. If I could move, I'd get my gun, put her in the ground. For God's sake, turn around.
Have fun editing that fire, dumpster fire.